need alternative politics rather than political alternatives. And my own notion of alternative politics that can lead us to building a better consensus around progress is that you cannot have 37% of the vote and take 100% of the spoils. It is not going to work. It's not going to help build consensus. It's time that we as a country begin to look in the direction of what is generally known as proportional representation, so that the party declared to have won 21% of the vote also has 21% of the government. That way, we will all see ourselves as critical stakeholders because we know what adversarial politics breeds. Adversarial politics always breeds division and enmity, even when what President Jonathan is doing, which 10 or so years after, all the political parties in this country agreed with. They even put it in their manifesto. Subsidy must be removed. Subsidy must be removed. Subsidy must be removed. We in ACN at the time we in ACN at the time in 2012, we know the truth, sir. But it is all politics. And that is why we must ensure that everybody is a critical stakeholder.
Guys, Fayemi don scatter table, telling us how they were playing politics 2012 and telling us that Nigeria is not working and giving us solutions on how Nigeria should work. Also enlightening the public that winning 37% is not enough to govern this nation. Guys, I would like to watch this video. If this is your first time of watching our channel, please subscribe to our channel, share this video, like this video, and also please don't fail to turn on your notification bell in order to be getting our updates. Watch.
What is this Nigeria to us? If you want to make something work, if we want development, as we all cherish, we must understand what we want to develop. You cannot develop what you don't have. And I think the very first questions we must ask ourselves is, what does Nigeria mean to us? There is no consensus, even 63 years after independence, on what Nigeria means to us. At least there's no minimum irreducible consensus that we all agree on, that this is what Nigeria means to us. We have different variants of what we would like it to mean to us. And we have stigmatized difference and weaponized diversity. And we all pick it out and use it for whatever purpose we would like to deploy that in the quest for our own notion of what Nigeria means to us. But even as we do not know or have a consensus on what Nigeria means to us, we also cannot conclude that Nigeria is meaningless to us. Because it is not. However, we all want to remake Nigeria, which is the how. For some, remaking Nigeria also includes unmaking Nigeria. They feel Nigeria should not exist, at least not exist in its current form. It must exist in one variant or the other. But if you want to unmake something, that means you believe that it is collapsing or it has collapsed. And if you say that Nigeria has collapsed, then you see Nigeria as the problem of the architects and the builders, not the problem of the estate managers. For many of us who see Nigeria as a leadership problem, those are the estate managers, not the builders. In fact, the builders are no longer here with us. Our founding fathers are gone. But it's a distortion, in my humble opinion, to even say Nigeria is the product of either our founding fathers or the product of the colonial masters. Because what is currently Nigeria, it was not Lord Lugard that introduced the Yorubas to the Nupes. It was certainly not Lord Lugard that introduced the Ibibios to the Efik. They've intermarried, they've been connected for years before what happened in 1914, which some regard as the mistake. The mistake of 1914. I don't agree with you, sir, if you are one of those who believe that what happened in 1914 was a mistake, because Lord Lugard did not create this country. So we need to start from that brass tacks first. Yes, our old professor, the late Professor Claude Ake, once wrote that the post-colonial state in Nigeria does not have development as part of its agenda. And it's true. But how can you have development as part of the agenda if you don't even know what the nation state is? Development is a product of a settled nation state, but every nation in the world is also an imagined community. There is no nation that was built lock, stock, and barrel and delivered as a perfect union. That is why the Americans will say that they are in search of a more perfect union, even now that we still see them as one of the more mature democracies or productive nations. What January 6, 2020 brought into clear relief to all of us who may imagine that is that even America is not settled. It experienced a constitutional coup of a president who wanted to remain in power and was ready to use the military to subvert democracy. 63 years may be long in the life of an individual. Our brother is 60, and he has gray beard, Your Excellency, so you may think he's an old man. The bones are creaking. But 63 years is very tiny in the journey of a nation. I don't say that to promote complacency. I say it to underscore the need for us to be hopeful. And I speak for me of the notion of unfinished greatness. Because clearly, Nigeria has not realized its potential and Nigeria is not working the way we want it to work. There's no question about what my sister has presented. No one could challenge it or contend with the data that she's presented, because that's the truth. But she also spoke another truth there, that the elite, many of us who are here form part of that elite, were largely responsible. But we're not just responsible because we have underperformed in our various tasks and assignments. We're responsible because we have not provided leadership to generate that consensus that would make us a nation. We're countries, very many countries, but we're not yet a nation. And in every society, it is the elite that lead the drive towards nationhood. Not by weaponizing diversity or stigmatizing difference, but by ensuring that we build on those things that unite us as a nation. And we derive common values that are consistent with the notion of greatness and seeking prosperity for the greater number of our people. I think that is where our challenge lies. And the how to do that is what I believe our brother Udenta has asked us to come and reflect on here. And there are many ways to do it. We know some of the things that are more concerning to our people. There are existential threats that our people are grappling with. What became popular notion after my 2014 loss in Ekiti, called the stomach infrastructure. These are existential challenges that Nigerians have. So what I've spoken about in terms of nation building may not be tangible to many because they are not bread and butter issues. But ultimately, that is what it will require. But even if we reduce it to that existential notion of progress, let us at least build some consensus around that. What is it that we want our government to do for us here and now? Is it provision of electricity? Is it social investment? Is it education, healthcare? We want all. Yes, we want all. There's no doubt about that. But in governance, the reality is that sequencing is also very critical. But the important point to make is that we can be hopeful if we understand the various dimensions of the challenges that we face. It is when we weaponize ethnicity and problematize diversity that those things become problematic. And every country is always in the throes of such conflicts. However, if we are clear about what this nation, what this country means to us, then we can address that. Some, in fact, very many of us believe that one way of ensuring that that happens is to make government more meaningful in the lives of ordinary Nigerians. And making government more meaningful in the lives of ordinary Nigerians also means to many that you bring government closer to ordinary Nigerians. And that is where the notion of restructuring, devolution, decentralization, you name it, even though many of us may not agree on what those things really mean, we often agree on the principle that Nigeria is an over-centralized state, and we need to do something about that over-centralization in order to guarantee more accountability and transparency. Now, my own preference, understandably, is that power should devolve more to the subnationals. Somebody will say, well, we're not surprised. Why are you not a former governor? And you governors, you just take the money and you do whatever you wish with it. Well, we won't have that debate here. I know many Nigerians don't even want to be, they don't want government in their life, if you like. So if we can solve the existential challenge of electricity, for example, the hairdresser, the canoe man who wants his boat engine to function well, the street trader, they will thrive without government coming into their lives and micromanaging their lives, because Nigerians really don't want that. Making Nigerian work, in my humble opinion, also means asking ourselves, how do we build a consensus around the notion of Nigeria that is acceptable to all of us? We cannot get into the developmental challenge fully unless we understand who we are and where we want to go, and the nature of even the government we want to run. One of the things I saw this morning on my way here was a news interview with our former president, President Olusegun Obasanjo, where he was saying that he's come to the conclusion that the liberal democracy as we have practiced it is no longer working for Africans, and we need to revisit it. He didn't quite say that he has an answer. They asked him, so what's your solution? He said, I don't know. But we need to begin to interrogate this liberal democracy. And I agree with him. If we must move from political alternatives, and we have political alternatives all the time. If we're not happy with PDP, we go to APC. If we're not happy with APC, we go to Labour, NMPP.